But the worst offender in terms of exploiting the current situation when it comes to borders, yes, Anastasia Palaszczuk is playing games, but the West Australian Premier, and I don't care how popular he is, he's playing games. Mark McGowan, the Labor Premier there, well, he's come out as hard as he possibly could and say that, well, that border has to remain shut. It will stay shut. Despite the fact that yesterday he tried to behave like a parent who said, well, I was going to take you to a McDonald's, but alas, you mucked up, kids, so you're not going to go. Even though you didn't know there was a chance of being able to go to McDonald's. This sort of garbage is being served up, and he's saying that, well, he was thinking about August, but now it may be a little bit later. Now, the key word there is August.
The current situation in Victoria is dire. I had planned to announce a tentative date for the removal of WA's hard border as part of our roadmap today. However, with the situation evolving in Victoria, based on our health advice, we've decided to put that on hold.
Bullshit. There was no suggestion that he was about to make any announcement yesterday or this week. Instead, he's using the situation of between 12 and 20 new cases that were revealed today in Victoria to justify that there must be a hardline border. A hardline border, by the way, that in Western Australia means things like this, that there are FIFO workers who have called this program. They have family that live in Sydney. For them to visit their family, they would have to go into quarantine in Western Australia where they couldn't work for 2 weeks before they'd be able to go back on the job. So they simply make the choice to not cross the border and not see their families. So we're not even now talking about industry, we're talking about people who are not able to reunite with their families because, God forbid, the only place they can go to dig something up is in Western Australia, you know, to keep the national economy going, which is all great. But this sort of nonsense is what I think needs discussing. The supposed tentative date that nobody knew was coming and that was not announced was going to apparently be August. Now, August matters because the unemployment situation in West Australia is actually one of the worst in the country. In fact, it is the worst in the country. If you have a look at this, this is the number of jobs which have been lost in Western Australia since the start of coronavirus. You can see that there is a massive drop in the number of people who have actually lost their job. As for the national unemployment rate, that is 7.1% nationally, but it's 8.1% right now in Western Australia, higher than the rest of the country, followed by Queensland, South Australia and the Northern Territory, all of which have their borders closed. Then you get the Northern Territory, Victoria, New South Wales, Tasmania and the public service location where, of course, not many lost their jobs at all. Now, why does August matter? Because JobKeeper is set to start trailing off from September. So Mark McGowan is pretending that it is all about protecting the health of people in Western Australia. Here's what it's really about. If he can keep the border closed till September and the welfare money runs out from the federal government, the worst unemployment rate in the country doesn't become the problem of the Premier. Instead, he gets to blame the federal government for withdrawing JobKeeper. His Treasurer said as much a couple of weeks ago. This is the tactic. This is the calculation. That is the calculation that is playing out in Western Australia. It's pure politics. Same as in Queensland. They expect a sort of Stockholm syndrome-like effect from the voters, that when the border comes up, thank you, Auntie Anastasia, when she was the one who was, of course, closing the borders and destroying economic activity. Because people are not able to get demand into the economy, because 25 million people cannot freely move around the country to do jobs, see their families or go on holidays, unemployment is through the roof. In Western Australia, it is currently, I repeat, 8.1%, a full point above the rest of the country. So you can put it in your pipe and smoke it, Premier, that all of this is about coronavirus and the health of Western Australians. It's not. It's about the political health of your government because at an unemployment rate of 8%, nobody's going to blame you while there's still money coming in from the feds. But when the money stops coming in from the feds, you will be able to blame the feds. Team Red, Team Blue. Sadly, the good people of Western Australia, including those who are trying to hold on in retail, in restaurants, in cafes, in pubs, outside of Perth is bleeding. Just as outside of Brisbane, just outside of Hobart, just as the same outside of Adelaide. Why do these people need to suffer so these politicians can make themselves look good? Do they honestly think people are so stupid that they cannot tell that the reason they haven't been able to open their business is because it was their Premier who decided to import rules about when you can and can't open, what you can and can't do, how far you can and can't travel? Watch this space, because there's plenty more.